Hello friends, today I am going to explain few software testing terms which is required in order to prepare the test cases for an application. So I will explain each and every point one by one with an example for each. So the first point is test scenario. A test scenario is an statement to describe the functionality of an application, generally written as a one-liner statement. So in order to test any application, we have certain module available, right? Let's say we have to test the Facebook application. So we have different module available in that application, like sign up, sign up, login, profile, then story creation, likes, then comment, etc. Okay. So in order to test, we have to prepare this test scenario, and it is a one-liner statement which will basically explain about the module. So let's say we are going to prepare the test cases for login page. So the scenario will be validate the login functionality of an application. Now the next point is test cases. It is a set of action performed to validate if it satisfies software requirement and functions correctly. The purpose of a test case is to determine if different features within a system are performing as expected and to confirm the system satisfies all related standards, guidelines, and customer requirement. So now we have prepared the test scenario, and now we have to segregate these scenario with few test cases. The test cases will be like to validate the login functionality with correct credential. Next, to validate the login functionality with invalid credential. The test case can be further created like to validate the login functionality without putting any credential. Then we have like for UI perspective, we can test the placeholder should be present in the proper input field. Then the login button should be available over there. The design, the color of the login button should be proper as expected or not. So these are few test cases which will be executed in order to test the login functionality. Now coming to the next point, which is test step. So test step are the sequential step used to perform one test cases on an application. So let's say we have prepared the test case to test the login functionality. Like the first test cases we have is to test to validate the login functionality with correct credential. Now we have to prepare the test step in order to execute the test case. So the step will be like open the browser, enter the URL, enter the email ID, enter the password, and click on the login button. So these are few steps required to execute the above test cases. Now we have to prepare test step for each and every test cases we have prepared to test the login functionality. This is basically help the test engineer to execute the test cases very formally and in very less time. Now the next point is test data. So the test data is in software testing is the input given to the software program during test execution. So now suppose we have prepared the test cases, but to execute the test cases we required some data, several input, so that the test cases can be executed. To test the login functionality, we required the URL, the email ID, and the password. So it should be sent from the input field, from the UI of the login page. So to test these functionality, these are few test data. Now next point is actual result. It is a result, a QA engineer will receive after executing test cases on an application. So after executing the above test case, the actual result what QA engineer will get, like the user should be redirected to landing screen of the Facebook application. So when you perform the above test case with the test step prepared, let's say you will find that after providing the valid credential, user are redirected to landing screen of the Facebook page. So this will be the actual result for that particular test case. Now, next point is expected result. It is an ideal result a QA engineer should get on executing the test cases. Let's say we have prepared few test case like to validate the login functionality with correct credential. So the expected result for these test case will be user should redirect it to the landing screen, which we have already known from the business requirement document or the SRS or the document prepared by the stakeholders or the business analyst for an application. Now let's say we have to execute the next test case, which is to validate the login functionality with invalid credential. So in that scenarios, what we should expect, we will expect like if the user provide invalid credential, they should get proper alert message that the password or the credential you have provided is invalid. So these are the expected result. Next point is test case ID. So it is a unique ID used to identify each and every test case available for an application. So let's say to test an application, we have to prepare thousands of test cases, right? But to identify each test cases, we will prepare a unique ID to each test case, and with that unique ID we can identify it. Okay, so this test case will belong to that particular module, and with the help of these test case ID we can use it in different test suites. So suppose we are going to prepare some regression test suite, sanity, smoke. So we will use these test case ID in that particular test suite in order to make sure, okay, these test cases will be executed when we are going to execute these like suites like regression, sanity, and all. So next point is prerequisite. It is a condition that must met before the test case are executed. So in order to execute the above prepared test case, there is some prerequisite which should be there before executing the test case. Like the build should be updated on the server, the credential is available, the internet connection should be there, the test environment should be properly working fine. So these are some prerequisite in order to execute any test cases. Now the next point is test environment. So it is a collection of hardware and software component required to execute the test case for an application. So let's say we are preparing a we have developed an application which will be run on Android machine. Let's say we have create an Facebook application which will be run on the Android device. Okay, so the test environment will be like the we should have Android device available as a hardware. Okay, the operating system is working fine on the Android device. The version is as expected. The version of the operating system, Android version, should be as expected. Like the our application should support that version, and the remaining things should be there in order to execute these. In order to test the build inside the Android application. So these things will be considered in test environment. Now next point is positive testing. It is a process where the functionality is validated against the valid input data. Now suppose this application is prepared by the development team, we have to make sure the valid flow of an application is working fine. So after successful login, user should redirect it to the landing screen. So that should be the valid uh, flow of an application. So that will be test in the positive testing. The next point is negative testing. So it is a process where the functionality is validated against the invalid test data to check the system behavior. So now let's say as an end user, we are going to use the Facebook application, but by mistake in the login page we provide some invalid credential. Okay, so our system should respond properly in that case, like it should give proper alert to the end user, like your credential is invalid, or suppose the internet connection is not working of the end user. So in that case also the application should respond like the internet, check your internet connectivity and all. It should not crash, it should not like system should not behave unexpectedly in that case, which should be not very user friendly. So we have to make sure if someone by mistake or knowingly made some mistake, made some like put some invalid data or perform some like unwanted steps in the application, our system should not fail in that case. Our system should respond properly. So these things will be considered in the negative testing. Now, this is not the proper template I have explained here. This is the point which we are going to use in order to prepare the test case template. I will explain how to prepare test cases for any application in the upcoming videos. For now I have explained these points will be required while I'm going to explain the test case preparation in the upcoming videos.